Okay, we'll get started. Okay, good morning, all of you again. Uh, can someone please confirm if my audio, video, and screen are good for all of us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So again, I request all of you to turn on your videos so that we'll be engaged. Okay, all right. So in the last class, we started with India-Pakistan relationship, a very turbulent relationship. Okay, starting from the inception, and like India and Pakistan, like there are only few parallels in the world, okay, which can match the India and Pakistan kind of relations. Okay, one is Israel Palestine. Okay, first one is Israel Palestine. Second one is North and South Korea. Okay, always a quarreling neighbors. Okay, and this kind of the conflicts, they are lasting more than 50 years, okay, in the past. Okay, and third one is India and Pakistan. Now, out of this, maybe if you are taking from the world perspective, okay, which is more important? Israel, Palestine, North Korea, South Korea, and India and Pakistan. So it is undoubtedly India and Pakistan dispute, which is more important from the world perspective. Why? Okay, when we are talking about the world powers perspective, when we are talking about from the UN perspective, okay, obviously India and Pakistan is more prominent than any of the other issues. The reason being, both the countries are nuclear powers. Okay, both the countries are having nuclear weapons, declared nuclear weapons. Okay, though they are some reports that North Korea might be having nuclear weapons, but it is unproven. Okay, but India and Pakistan both are having nuclear weapons. Okay, with each of them a huge amount of nuclear weapons, which can cause a regional destruction. Okay, which is having a possibility of creating some kind of a, a regional disruption as well. So, if you are taking from the world perspective, okay, the India and Pakistan dispute is the most significant or the most troublesome. Okay, it is not only from India's perspective or Pakistan's perspective, but also from the world's perspective, it is the most troublesome of the relations. And yesterday we have gone through some of the areas like where India and Pakistan are having, you can say, divergent viewpoints. Okay, the most importantly, the border disputes are always something which would come, okay, uh, uh, between India and Pakistan. So as we know that the border uh, conflicts, until the border conflicts are resolved, we cannot expect some kind of normalcy in the relationship. Okay, that's what we were discussing in the last class. And one of the reasons why the border disputes are always on boil, okay, because even from Pakistan side, there is a lot of compulsion. Okay, there is a lot of compulsion. Now, what happens is within the country, there are like multiple challenges. Okay, the leadership. Okay, we discussed that in Pakistan there is something called state within state. Okay, or state above state. Okay, now whoever comes to power, there is a huge amount of pressure, mounting pressure to resolve the internal crisis. Okay, we discussed that there is a integration problem in Pakistan. Okay, either on language issue, either on ethnic issue, either on, you can say, the economic inequalities. Okay, uh, uh, so because of multiple reasons, multiple challenges the Pakistan has, so the leadership often targets India as to divert the attention of the common man. Is it clear? Okay, so the hatred, like whatever comes in Pakistan towards against India, is more of a compulsion. Have noticed this? Okay, because without projecting India as some kind of villain, okay, now Pakistan cannot become a hero. Okay, so this is where like often it is a compulsion for Pakistan to project India, okay, in a bad light. Okay, that is where even if there is some kind of, you can say, uh, 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 normalcy, okay, which is being established with the political class, we can see that the other parties are not very happy about it. Okay, for example, if you are having some kind of engagement with political leadership, we see that there is an attack by army, okay, or there is an attack by uh, uh, ISI, or there is an attack by any non-state actor. Okay, you would have noticed that. Okay, even then there is some kind of political normalcy which is happening. Okay, from you can say the Bhutto era to the Musharraf era, okay, or to the recent Nawaz Sharif era. Okay, what we can see here is whenever we are trying to engage with political establishment, the other centers of powers are not happy. Okay, there is often a coordinated attack. Okay, on India. Now, if you are engaging with army, the ISA is not happy. If you are engaging with some kind of non-state actor, the separatists, okay, the political class is not happy. So we know that ultimately we need to talk with Pakistan. Okay, we need to talk with Pakistan. Okay, that's a question. What should be India's approach with Pakistan? Okay, either to talk or not to talk. Okay, just write a question. Write a question. To talk or not to talk with Pakistan? To talk or not to talk with Pakistan? You can write a few points. Scholars like Brahmchalani, okay, scholar, when they are talking from a realist perspective, okay, you can bookmark this scholar. Okay, you can follow him on the you can say on his blogs. Okay, he will write mostly on the realist terms. Okay, from India, China, India, Pakistan. Okay, and you can say changing world order. Okay, he'll write a lot about that. Okay, a good author which you can bookmark. Scholars like Brahmachalani say that there are certain groups in Pakistan. There are certain groups in Pakistan okay, in brackets you can write ISI, non-state actor. ISI is the intelligence agency of Pakistan. Okay, something like in India we are having intelligence bureau. Okay, in India we are having RAW. Okay, in Pakistan there is something called ISI. Okay, which is we can say uh, the intelligence agency. Okay, but often this behaves in its own manner. Okay, but what we see in India that IB coordinates and RAW coordinates with the political class. Okay, but here that coordination is missing. Okay, there are certain groups in Pakistan, in brackets, ISI, non-state actors, army, etc. Bracket close, which do not want talks to happen. Which do not want talks to happen. Okay, full stop. Whenever talks are resumed, it is coordinated by a terrorist attack on India. Whenever talks are resumed, it is coordinated with a terrorist attack on India. Okay, this is something like a cycle which is happening. Okay, like whenever the leaders like you can say Rajiv Gandhi, okay, or Vajpayee, okay, they wanted to engage Pakistan. Okay, once the political class is having a you can say some kind of deal, some kind of agreement, okay, just instantly there would be some kind of terrorist attack which is happening on India. Okay, even in the recent times, the Pulwama attack or Uri attack, what you notice is on one side, Modi is making an attack. Sorry, Modi is making a you can say agreement or a talk with the political leadership. Okay, in the backdrop there would be some kind of terrorist attack. Is it clear? So you can write Pakistan talks and fights concurrently. Pakistan talks and fights concurrently. Okay, on one hand they would talk. Okay, behind there would be a clash. Okay, but the flashpoint would all again there will be some kind of attack, some kind of you can say army is going beyond the LOC. Okay, these kind of incidents are often happening. Okay, so what he's saying is there is no point in talking with Pakistan. Okay, because there is no coordination among its agencies, among its political class. Okay. On the other hand, okay, next para. On the other hand, scholars like Shashi Tharoor hold that hold that even if there is no outcome, even if there is no outcome, we should continue talks. Even if there is no outcome, we should continue talks. Okay, full stop. If we abandon talks, the only option left will be war. The only option left will be war. Left will be war. So what he holds, okay, that the view is even if there is no outcome as such, okay, we should keep that channel of communication open. Okay, because if there is no talks at all, it would be even more dangerous. Okay, it would not only be a terrorist attack, it could be even leading to a war, full-fledged war. Is it clear? Now there are like different viewpoints of scholars. Okay, we would not go into that. Okay, some say that we should not talk at all, but some say that we should talk. But more important question, okay, rather than to talk or not to talk, okay, more important question is what to talk. Okay, and even more important question, okay, which is open, okay, is whom to talk in Pakistan. Is it clear? Okay, so there are three questions, whether to talk or not to talk. Okay, once we understand these three questions, then it would be easier to deal with Pakistan. Is it clear? First one is whether to talk or not to talk. There are two viewpoints. Okay, and what to talk. You can write the next question. What to talk? What to talk? Okay, here again, like we do not have clarity. Okay, from India's side. Okay, write down what to talk as heading. India is unclear about India is unclear about what it wants from Pakistan. India is unclear about what it wants from Pakistan. See, from Pakistan side, they are very much clear. Okay, on this, at least Pakistan is clear on what it wants from India. Okay, can anyone tell me what it wants from India?
Kashmir.
Kashmir. Okay, let me ask this way. If you give Kashmir to Pakistan, do you think all the disputes would be settled? Okay. The answer is no. What Pakistan wants is not only Kashmir from India, but always some kind of you can say conflict to always be remain with India. Okay, due to its own internal crisis. Okay, in fact, if it wants something, it would be a total destruction of India. Okay, now you can write Pakistan has a policy. Pakistan has a policy. Bleed India with 1,000 cuts. Bleed India with 1,000 cuts. Okay, it's a military doctrine which is followed by Pakistan. Okay, that means it consists of waging direct war, indirect war. Okay, at multiple locations. Why Pakistan wants to do this? It wanted to take revenge on India for Bangladesh, for Kashmir, for a lot of other things. It wanted to still take revenge. Okay, now what we can see here is Pakistan is very clear on its thought, what it wants to do with India. Okay, but India is not clear what it wants from Pakistan. Okay, this is what the question is. Okay, right now. Right now. Okay, you can write maybe as a flow chart. Yeah, someone wants to speak. Please go ahead. Okay, on one side you can write peace with Pakistan. On one side you can write enmity with Pakistan. Okay, peace with Pakistan and enmity with Pakistan. Okay, you can write enmity with Pakistan. Enmity with Pakistan. Pakistan is a rogue state, having huge amount of nuclear weapons. Okay, rogue state means those states which do not obey international law. Okay, there are some states in the world like Iran, like North Korea, okay, often Israel. Okay, there are some states which do not go with or comply with the international law. Okay, so they do whatever they want. Okay, now it is a country which does not have any kind of, you can say, commitment or any kind of this one with the international law. On the top of it, it is having huge amounts of nuclear weapons. In fact, it is having more nuclear weapons than India possesses. Now, if any conflict with Pakistan, any full-fledged war with Pakistan, okay, to whom the harm would be more? Okay, to Pakistan or to India? Okay, obviously the harm to India would be even more for that. Is it clear? Okay, because already Pakistan is a failed state. Okay, nothing it is going to lose. Okay, what to whom the harm would be more? Okay, it is to India. And moreover, from international community perspective, if a small country and a large country are fighting with each other, okay, to whom the popular sympathy would go with, small or with large? Obviously
Small.
with a small country. Okay, right? Okay, obviously with a small country. Okay, now what you can say the message the India might be giving if it is having enmity with Pakistan is India is like a quarreling neighbor. Okay, and not only with Pakistan, a lot of countries in our neighborhood might become skeptical out of India. Okay, we discussed that there is already a nationalism which is rising, okay, in and across the India's neighborhood. Okay, either you take in Nepal or those countries which we believe that they will be always with India. Okay, countries like Bangladesh, countries like Maldives, countries like Sri Lanka or Bangladesh. Okay, we know that there is rising nationalism in all these countries. Okay, now which is something not good in this situation, that having enmity with Pakistan to be continued. Okay, now the war with Pakistan comes with a huge cost for India, which India is not ready to bear with. Is it clear? Okay, it is not that we cannot destroy Pakistan or we cannot attack Pakistan, but it would come with a huge cost, which we don't want to bear with. And India has its own set of ambitions. Okay, India is not like Bangladesh. Okay, India is not like Sri Lanka. India has its own set of regional aspirations, and you can say at a global level aspirations. A country which wanted to become a UNSC power. Okay, a country which wanted to get admission into energy. Okay, now in such a situation, like any kind of enmity with Pakistan is something not good. Okay, if you are taking from economic perspective, or you can say if you are taking from the developmental perspective, if you are taking from the diplomatic perspective, okay, this is something, an effort which India is not ready to take. Okay, clear what is enmity with Pakistan means. Now, peace with Pakistan, peace with Pakistan, or you can write one more statement in enmity with Pakistan. A prosperous Pakistan, a prosperous Pakistan is better for India. Prosperous Pakistan is better for India than a miserable Pakistan. A prosperous Pakistan is better for India than a miserable Pakistan. Got this point? Okay, because as long as Pakistan is developing, it is good for India as well. Is it clear? Because we know that in Pakistan, terrorism is something like a competitive industry. Okay, terrorism is something like a cottage industry. Okay, if you see it, a lot of terrorist organizations. Okay, earlier the terrorist organizations might be having a clear-cut ideology, clear-cut this one, but thanks to Pakistan, it democratized terrorism. Okay, anyone can join terrorist organization. Okay, because what happened is Pakistan made terrorism as something like MG Narega. I hope you are aware of MG Narega. What is it?
Rural Employment Guarantee Act.
Guarantee Act. Okay, when people don't have any kind of employment, the government would provide some kind of cheap employment or some kind of wages, working wages to them. Now, terrorism is something like MG Narega in Pakistan. I hope you are aware about it. Okay, so what we need to understand here is a miserable country like in our neighborhood is something which India does not want to happen, because there could be a refugee crisis into India. Okay, there could be even more terrorist attacks, even if there is a war with Pakistan. This India does not want to happen. Is it clear? Okay, this is what we call a prosperous Pakistan is always better, okay, than having a miserable neighborhood in the neighborhood in Pakistan. Okay, then peace with Pakistan, you can write down. The peace with Pakistan also comes with the peace with Pakistan also comes with, okay, in quotation marks, right, huge cost. Huge cost. Huge cost. Okay, in brackets. What is huge cost means? What Pakistan wants? Anyone? Okay, maybe Kashmir, the whole of Kashmir. Okay, obviously. Okay, at least for time being. Okay, in fact, it might need more. Okay, from India. Now, even India is not ready to pay this price. Okay, we are not saying Kashmir, but we are saying that it comes with a huge cost. Okay, the examiner would understand. Okay, we say that the peace with Pakistan comes with a huge cost, which India is not ready to pay. That is where India still is confused what it wants from Pakistan. Got the point? Even if we need enmity with Pakistan or if we need peace with Pakistan, both come with huge cost, which India is not willing to pay at this moment. Okay, that is where India does not know what to talk with Pakistan. understood the second dilemma of India. Okay, first dilemma of India is whether to talk or not to talk. Second dilemma is what to talk. Even here, India is not clear. Okay, Pakistan is clear. Okay, but India is not clear. Third one, the most, you can say, even more difficult question for India is whom to talk. Is whom to talk. Okay, you can write here. You can write here. Pakistan is not a normal state. Pakistan is not a normal state. It is an unnatural nation. It is an unnatural nation. It is an unnatural nation with different centers of power. With different centers of power. And a lot of non-state actors. A lot of non-state actors. Okay, I hope you are clear who are non-state actors. Okay, can anyone tell me what do you mean by non-state actors? Anyone? Use the word state actors and non-state actors.
Yeah, which are not the part of the established regime.
You're like pressure groups, interest groups,
Good, good. In
civil
India?
societies.
Okay, in India, who are non-state actors?
NGOs,
NGOs and see terrorist organizations. Okay, insurgency groups. Okay, or you can say the communal groups in India. Okay, we do have our own share of, you can say, terrorists, Naxalites. Okay, communal groupings which are there in India, the NGOs which are there. Okay, we do have a lot of non-state actors. In addition to that, today we are having something called MNCs. Okay, which are also called non-state actors. So when I say non-state actors, all these are influencing some kind of this one on state. Okay, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Okay, sometimes like NGOs or MNCs, they can be doing something good. Okay, but at the same time, they might be diluting the power of state. Is it clear? Now, Pakistan also has a huge amount of these. Okay, in fact, when we are talking about non-state actors in Pakistan, mostly we are referring to the terrorist organizations. Okay, within state, like we are having ISI, we are having the army, we are having the Supreme Court judiciary, okay, which is often hyperactive in Pakistan. Okay, in addition to all of this, okay, the opposition parties, okay, in addition to all of this, the non-state actors exercise huge amount of influence on its foreign policy. Okay, we know that the organizations like Taliban, okay, the organizations like maybe the LET, okay, JEM, okay, all these organizations hold a significant political influence on its foreign policy. Okay, now in addition to within the Pakistan, okay, within Pakistan, like there are state actors and non-state actors. In addition to that, there are the outside actors as well, okay, which hold significant influence on the happenings on Pakistan. Okay, like in the past, it was USA, which had lot of control over Pakistan, and over time, this was replaced with China. Okay, today we know that China has a significant amount of influence on Pakistan. In addition to China, the countries like Saudi Arabia hold a lot of significance or a hold over Pakistan, or countries like Russia. Okay, countries like Saudi Arabia, countries like Russia, countries like Iran. Okay, they also hold some kind of strong hold, okay, over the policies of Pakistan. Okay, this is what we should be aware of, that there is lot of you can say centers of powers in Pakistan. This is where we do not know how we can deal with Pakistan. Okay, sometimes we adopt back channel diplomacy. Heard of it? The word back channel diplomacy. That means through Saudi Arabia, we try to arm twist Pakistan. Okay, through Russia, we try to arm twist Pakistan. Through China, we try to arm twist Pakistan. But even these countries do not have complete hold. Is it clear? Okay, it is not that China says something and it could be happening in Pakistan. Okay, it is not like that. Because even within Pakistan, there are state and non-state actors. Okay, and because of this coordination problem, we do not know whom to talk to. Okay, not only countries like India, even countries like US are struggling today. Okay, the superpowers like US are struggling today. With whom to talk within Pakistan? Clear? Okay, 3 questions: whether to talk or not to talk, what to talk, and the third question is whom to talk. Now, until we are able to answer these 3 questions, okay, by ourselves, we do not know how to deal with Pakistan. Okay, when we say dealing with Pakistan, it means that dealing with all the 3 questions. Is it clear? Anything you wanted to speak or add? Okay, all right. I'll just run you through the slides which we were talking yesterday. Okay, so that it would be easier for you to recollect. Okay, so this is the Kashmir, the map of Kashmir, as I told, should be very much known to you. Okay, because until you know all these places, okay, which are often in news, okay, like Udhampur or Pulwama or Baramulla, okay, until you know all these places very clearly, you might not be able to understand, okay, the dynamics which are happening in the uh, uh, recent times. Okay, and also we know that there are like different lines, okay, or borders, like we discussed about the Radcliffe line, we discussed about LAC, okay, we discussed about IB, international border, and AGPL, actual ground position line. Okay, right, we are having 4 kinds of borders with Pakistan. Okay, so this is the Siachen glacier. Okay, so this is the Siachen glacier, which is the highest battlefield, okay, in the world. Now you might get a question which might be related to one particular aspect. Okay, what should be India's policy in Siachen? Okay, what should be India's policy with respect to Kashmir? Okay, what should be India's policy with respect to Sar Creek? Okay, so be aware about all these issues. So yesterday we were talking about something called Thalwik, right? Okay, maybe you can ask your geography faculty what exactly the Thalwik is. Okay, how exactly this can be resolved with international arbitration. Okay, how the Sar Creek dispute is still open. Okay, despite having unclosed agreement. Okay, and with Pakistan, we do not have only land issues. Okay, we do have also the water issues. Okay, we are having something called Indus Water Treaty with Pakistan. Okay, which talks about the distribution of rivers. Okay, the eastern and the western rivers of Indus River system with India and Pakistan. Okay, so take each of these points as your assignment topics and ensure that you are having 200 words, okay, on each of these. Maybe this is something which is in news. Okay, Indus Water Treaty is in news. Just try to understand what exactly the Indus Water Treaty, how this IWT is in news in the recent times. Okay, what are all the different controversies over the Indus Water Treaty? Once you prepare in this manner, I hope like you will be having enough content, okay, to write in your exam. Okay, any questions on India, Pakistan? Okay, all right, I'll take it as no, that we are clear till here. Okay, all right, so let me just go back to the original map. Okay, So what we discussed is we started with India, okay, and the border issues. We covered Bangladesh, China, Pakistan. Now what we need to cover is Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, and Afghanistan. So Myanmar and Afghanistan, I feel, are more important. Okay, and I believe like these require more explanation than any of this. Okay, we'll cover Myanmar when we are discussing about ASEAN in detail. Okay, we'll come back to Myanmar. Now, for time being, we'll start with Afghanistan. Okay, hope you understood what we need to study in Nepal and Bhutan, or should I give you the overview so that you will do the exercise, or you would do it on your own? Either way is fine.
So please give an overview.
Okay, okay. Okay, I'll just give an overview what to study in Nepal and Bhutan. Okay, right now, Nepal. So I hope why we are going with this order: Bangladesh, China, Pakistan. What is the logic?
Borders.
Borders. Longest border with Bangladesh, shortest border with Afghanistan. Okay, decreasing order of the land boundary with each of these countries. Okay, you can write Nepal. Nepal. Okay, can anyone tell me why Nepal is in news?
Kala Pani dispute.
Okay, because of the border dispute. Okay, I'll just run you through the slides where I very you can say yeah, you can write down what can be asked in Nepal. What can be asked? Okay, the topics, I'm just giving you an overview. Okay, hope you would do that exercise and come back. And any particular subtopic I can deal in the class, but I'll just give you the overview because countries like Afghanistan, countries like maybe ASEAN requires more explanation. Okay, and this is mostly factual because if I want to spend more time, I would spend on those countries which require more explanation. Okay, which would be more important for your PT. Okay, as well. Okay, so you can write the. I hope you would go with the same format. Okay, little bit of our patented formula for a year. Okay, geography, history, then the recent foreign policy. Okay, maybe after independence. Okay, how exactly India's relations with Nepal has been. Okay, then the importance of Nepal. Okay, and vice versa. Then we'll go with the issues which are there. Okay, or the events which are happening in the recent times. Okay, and finally the way forward. I hope you remember this patented formula of ours, right? Okay, so when we are going with, we'll go with the same approach for all the countries. Okay, when I say geography, you should be having good idea about the you can say landforms, river systems, okay, mountain ranges which are there in Nepal. Okay, any questions? Okay, all right. So I'll just run you through the slides between India and Nepal. Okay, so this is a political map of Nepal. Okay, hope you would be doing with the exercise of going through the physical map. Okay, but again, if you look at broadly, okay, it is a small Himalayan kingdom. Okay, small Himalayan kingdom with some kind of monarchy. Okay, some kind of peaceful state. Okay, until there were like some spells of, you can say, the democracy which were there. Okay, you can write few points if you want. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship. (1950). 1950, becomes the basis for India-Nepal relations. Becomes the basis for India-Nepal relations. India-Nepal relations. India had open border policy. India had open border policy with Nepal. See, unlike other countries, okay, like India, Pakistan, where we are having a sealed border. Okay, India and Nepal border is an open border. I hope you are aware that people from India can directly go to Nepal, okay, work there, or the other way around. In fact, the people of Nepal are even eligible for writing UPSC exam. Okay, almost all the services are open to them. Okay, except for I think IAS and IPS and foreign service. Okay, except for these three services, all other services are open for the citizens of Nepal. I hope if you are aware, maybe next time you see your UPSC notification, you will see that people of Nepal and Bhutan are also eligible to apply. Okay, they can work in our armed forces. The citizens of Nepal can even work in our armed forces, like such a strategic this one. Okay, no other countries in the world, okay, share the kind of friendship India and Nepal share. And the reason why I'm saying here is it is from 1950s we are having these open border system. Is it clear? Okay, now hardly any countries in the world were having open border systems then. Okay, today we are talking about EU, okay, which is having open border systems. Okay, but this came in 1990s. Okay, the open border system between between the EU came only in 1990s. Before that, there were huge amount of restrictions. Okay, or US and Canada. Okay, again in the recent times. Okay, there are very few countries in the world, okay, which have these kind of open border systems, and perhaps the first in 1950s. Is it clear? And it is often called as the ties between India and Nepal are called a lot of you can say family to family ties. Okay, the family to family ties rather than just a diplomatic ties. Okay, so here what we can see here is though India and Nepal are having like a huge history of friendship. Okay, like what we can see here is the monarchy in Nepal has not been very stable. Okay, it has been a huge amount of instability which would happen in Nepal. Okay, in terms of, you can write in 1990s, the Jan Andolan demanded the parliamentary democracy, the parliamentary democracy. And since then, the political instability, started in Nepal. Okay, there are different experiments, okay, with different constitutions. Okay, now again, like within Nepal, there are lot many groups. Okay, one supports the constitutional monarchy. Okay, one supports the republican form of government. Okay, one supports altogether different kind of arrangement with some kind of communist vision of what they are having for Nepal. Okay, and because of this, they are not able to come to a common understanding of what kind of constitution they wanted. Is it clear? Okay, now India also had similar kind of challenge when British left India, but our Constituent Assembly has done a very you can say a very commendable job, okay, in bringing different groups together, in preparing a constitution which is more or less acceptable to different you can say different viewpoints. Okay, but unfortunately in countries like Nepal, they were not still able to finalize upon what kind of constitution they wanted. Okay, because of this led to some kind of constitutional crisis, okay, in Nepal. And each of this is where like India's hand, okay, is becoming more or less questionable. The reason is, if India helps them, okay, if India helps them, they feel that India is trying to arm twist them. Okay, if India does not help, again there is a concern that India, being a huge neighbor, it is not coming to their support. Is it clear? So this is where we need to understand that what kind of approach we need to adopt it in Nepal is something like very questionable for India. Now Nepal is very important for India from multiple reasons. Okay, from cultural, I hope you are aware that there are like common religions. Okay, the Hinduism, Buddhism. Okay, there are common religions, and huge amount of people to people contacts are there. Okay, between both the sides of the border. Okay, and important centers of Buddhism are there in Nepal. I hope you are aware that Buddha is born in Nepal. Okay, the Lumbini, okay, which is very much significant in attracting religious tourism. Okay, a lot of Hindu temples are also there in Nepal. Okay, and the other way around. Okay, people from Nepal come to the Hindu temples and Buddhist places of worship in India. Okay, then from strategic perspective, Nepal is very important because it is a buffer state. Okay, it is a what we call as a buffer state. Okay, between India and China. Okay, otherwise we would be having a direct border with China. Okay, which is again a concern. Okay, and from security perspective also it is becoming important. Okay, a lot of counterfeit currency, okay, which is what we call fake Indian currency notes, okay, are coming from Nepal to India. Okay, a lot of insurgent groups and terrorist organizations, okay, they often come through the Nepal route, okay, into India. Okay, this is also we observed in the recent times. A lot of international the terrorist organizations are entering India through the Nepal route. Okay, and from political perspective, a lot of other you can say doctrines, okay, which would come into play. It is a test of our diplomacy with smaller neighbors. Okay, and from economic perspective also, it is the largest borrower of Indian currency. Okay, from tourism perspective, a huge amount of projects, okay, which are running with Nepal, like hydroelectric projects like BBIN, okay, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal motor vehicle agreement. Okay, so all this would make Nepal immensely you can say significant when we are talking about India's foreign policy. Okay, it is a test of our foreign policy in our neighborhood. Okay, any questions till now? Okay, now despite having such a close relation, such a open borders, we still have unresolved borders with Nepal. Okay, you can write few. Okay, first one, the border disputes with Nepal. First one is the Kalapani, Kalapani. The Kalapani. Okay, it is a 400 square kilometer. Square kilometer territory claimed by Nepal. Claimed by Nepal. Okay, can anyone tell me what is the area of Bangalore? Approximate. Anyone? What you should do if you don't know? Come on. What you should do?
Around 750 square kilometer.
Okay, what you should do if you don't know? Just Google it. Okay, it does not take a lot of time. Okay, hardly 10 seconds. Area of
141 square kilometer.
Okay, right, you can use Google very easily, or whatever, binge. Okay, all right. Now coming back to this one, so it is smaller than Bangalore. Okay, the area which is disputed, okay, between India and Nepal. Okay, and Lipu Lake Pass, Lipu Lake Pass, and Limpiadhura, Limpiadhura. Okay, these places you might get it in prelims. Okay, which of these places are match the following? Now I'll tell you something which is more important than the places. Okay. Now what we need to understand is whenever there are tri-junctions. Okay, China has a habit of, you can say, provoking these tri-junctions. Okay, now what we can see here is this is a tri-junction area between India, Nepal, and China. This is some kind of tri-junction area where China would be having advantage. Okay, if there is some kind of flash. The same thing like Lipu Lake area. If you see, again, it is a tri-junction between India, Nepal, and China. Got it. So what we need to understand is the tri-junctions are always a flashpoint between India and China. Now China is habituated of doing this, not only with respect to Nepal, but also with respect to Pakistan. Okay, if you know that why this Shaksgam Valley is so critical for China, because it is a tri-junction region when we are talking from Pakistan, India, and China perspective. So list out, take a small assignment, list out different tri-junctions, which are of conflict between India, China, and first one Nepal, Pakistan, Bhutan or Myanmar. What we'll see here, what you'll appreciate that fact is all the tri-junctions, China is trying to make some kind of, you can say, instability in these regions. Okay, we discussed the China's approach. What is it called? Starting with E. China's policy.
It basically takes 2 steps forward and 1 step backward.
Yes. What is it? What is that word we used? It starts with E.
Development and settlement.
And last one?
Insulting. Envelop.
Envelopment is strategic. Sorry, envelopment is economic. Encirclement is strategic. Could you recollect? Entanglement.
Entanglement.
Okay. What is entanglement? Keeping India busy in its internal security problems, in its border problems. Is it clear? Okay, this is what we know, that these issues are not directly between India and Nepal. These are propagated by China. Okay, this is a clear, you can say, example of how China is playing its hand. Okay, when we are talking about this one, and China is also making a huge amount of inroads. Okay, from the Tibet side. Okay, understood why Tibet is also important from China this angle as well. Okay, when we are talking from Nepal perspective or Bhutan perspective, Tibet plays a very important role. Okay, one more reason why China took a lot of efforts in annexing Tibet is because of its advantage it would be having. Because Tibet being on a higher ground, okay, it would be easier for China to make inroads into Nepal or to Bhutan. Okay, because China had that territorial ambitions. Okay, that's what we discussed, right? Okay, and these are all the issues which are there, which you should be aware of between India and Nepal. Then again, strained relations with respect to trade. Okay, because many people in Nepal believe that India is dumping goods into this one, and often India blocks, okay, the supplies of oil, the supplies of essential products into China, into Nepal. Okay, whenever there is a dispute with Nepal, and Nepal being a landlocked country, Okay, and Nepal being a landlocked country, it has no other option but to depend on the overbearing country, China. Okay, and China often makes use of this advantage, okay, in getting closer with Nepal. Okay, this is a concern for India, that the traditional countries like with which we are having good relations, okay, these countries also started playing the China card. Okay, this is a test of our diplomacy. Okay, a lot of multi-purpose projects are being constructed, oil pipelines or hydroelectric dams are being constructed by China. Okay, because again, you cannot only blame China for everything wrong, okay, in this one, because often what happens is the Indian projects, as I told, India promises and China delivers. Okay, ultimately these countries want development, these countries want infra, okay, these countries want good jobs, and because of all these reasons we can see that the countries are often lost, okay, to China. The same thing which happened in Sri Lanka, okay, same thing which happened in Myanmar, okay, is because we could not deliver on our promises. Okay, clear? Any questions? I think we got some idea what we need to prepare in Nepal. Okay, I'll just give an overview about Bhutan as well, but any questions before we move forward?
Sir, like when there was monarchy in Nepal, I guess Nepal's king wanted or suggested it will be for the good of Nepal if it merged with India, right? At some point.
Merging with India would be far-fetched, because even India does not have some kind of ambitions of merging Nepal. Okay, now what happened was the Indo-Nepal Treaty of Friendship. Okay, because India is claiming about republican form of government. India is talking about democracy. Now the Nepal Congress expected that India would respect that, but India made treaty with king. Okay, on one hand, on Indian side, we are talking about republican form of government, we are talking about democracy. On the other hand, it was making the treaty with king, the treaty of peace and friendship with king, which was not liked by democratic forces or which were there. Okay, the democratic forces felt that India is not treating us on par. And also the treaty was signed by an ambassador. Okay, understood this. Okay, this is like signaling that Nepal is not like any other country for India. That means we do not treat Nepal, because it should be between head of the state and head of the state. Okay, generally if it is a small country or large country. Okay, this is a norm in diplomacy. But what happens is this kind of you can say symbolic gestures, okay, give rise to a lot of questions that India is not treating the Nepal as it should be treated. Is it clear? Like this one. So that is where, if you want to trace down the history of Nepal, till 1990s, it was a constitutional monarchy. Okay, from 1950 to 1990, it is a constitutional monarchy. Okay, from it was a monarchy. 1950 to 1990, it is a monarchy. From 1990 to 2008, it is a constitutional monarchy. From 2008 onwards, the monarchy has been replaced and a federal republic of Nepal was established. Okay, if you want to broadly classify the history of Nepal, political history of Nepal, 1950 to 1990 monarchy, 1990 to 2008 constitutional monarchy. Okay, and post 2008, it is the Federal Republic of Nepal. Okay, hope I answered your question, or did I answer something different?
Yes, sir. Like, so basically, you're telling that it was never sought after from either side to be like to come together as like a single nation.
Merging Nepal with India was not something which India had in mind. Okay, which India did not have. Okay, I don't think India at any point of time had the thoughts of merging Nepal with India, because what is there in Nepal? Okay, first of all, okay, we don't want something. It is more like a burden. We already have huge amount of territory to manage. Okay, so and India is not an aggressive nation. We know that Nepal was not a part of India, so we try to keep it that way. Okay, even if it is like a different country, like a different country, it does not matter much, because if, as long as we are having good relations. Because forcefully merging a country into India did not go well. Okay, we experienced that in Nagaland, we experienced that in Manipur, we experienced that in Junagadh. Still now we are experiencing that in Kashmir. Okay, because just by keeping that country on hold is, or merging that country is not something which would, which India wants to happen.
Yes, I mean, not sir from India side, but I think it was some statement made by the king at some time. But yeah, I got your point, sir. So that should be sufficed for now.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Sir, why we are not happy with the recent constitution of Nepal, sir?
Recent approach, because often what happens is the countries, they play the China card, okay, to arm twist India. Okay, the countries like Nepal are playing, countries like Bangladesh play often, Myanmar play, Maldives play. Okay, because they say that if you don't give us more and more, you can say relaxations, if you don't give us more jobs, we would go with China. Okay, this is something which India does not like. It is more like threatening India. Okay, because India has its own share of problems, India has its own share of this one. Okay, now we cannot support Nepal infinitely. Even if the support we are giving, we need some kind of reciprocation. Okay, if Nepal is becoming a ground for anti-India protests, if Nepal is becoming a ground for becoming a safe haven for terrorists or insurgents, which India does not like. Okay, that's what, like, which India is saying that we provide the economic supports, we provide the jobs, we provide this one, provided you have to do this one. Okay, but because of the rising nationalism in these countries, okay, coming closer to India is very tough for them as well. Okay, the political class, even if they say that we are going with India, they would be treated as cowards, they would be treated as anti-nationals. Okay, that's what the challenge is. Okay, so even within those countries, they are having a compulsion to question India. Okay, is it here? Okay, all right. So if there are no questions, we'll just move forward. Okay, Bhutan. Okay, often called as a time-tested friend for India. Time-tested friend for India. Okay, what do we need to study in Bhutan? A few points, I'll just give you the overview. Okay, Myanmar will cover when we are discussing about the ASEAN. Okay, because that would make more sense for us. Okay, right on. The background. The Friendship Treaty of 1949. The Friendship Treaty of 1949. Okay, Treaty of the Friendship and Cooperation. Okay, with Nepal we signed in 1950. With Bhutan we signed in 1949. Okay, if you see this slide, okay, this slide would pretty much sums up what are the relations which are there. Okay, the historic relations. Okay, which start with Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation in 1949. Okay, again, from where I'm getting all this, what is the source of my this one? It is from the public diplomacy website of Ministry of External Affairs. Okay, this is the most authentic data I can get. Okay, so I would suggest you to, maybe if you are on social media, okay, on Facebook or Twitter, okay, you can follow these handles, Twitter handles, okay, like the Diplomacy of India or Ministry of External Affairs, where you'll get a lot of authentic information. Okay. You can write what we need to prepare. I think the same format I use when I'm preparing. security, trade, transit, economic, hydropower, development and water resources. Okay, try to get some maybe 50 words on each of this. Okay, I think that's pretty much when we need to study in Bhutan. Okay, we know that Bhutan is a small Himalayan kingdom. Maybe from your geography, you'd learn that. Okay, it is a small Himalayan kingdom. Okay, which is relatively peaceful. I hope you are aware about the developments in Nepal, the monarchy, which is very much, you can say, popular in Bhutan. Okay, unlike Nepal, there are anti-monarchy protests. Okay, Bhutan is comfortable with monarchy. Okay, and it is easier for India, okay, to deal with one single leadership rather than multiple viewpoints. Then we can see that Bhutan has always been a country which is with India, okay, in almost all the testing times. Okay, now India-Bhutan relations, we say that it is one of the best, okay, what India is having today. But again, everything is not very rosy with Bhutan as well. Okay, because India and Bhutan has its own share of challenges. Okay, though we are not having border disputes, now there are challenges of hydroelectric power, okay, which we need to construct. Okay, again, the rising insurgency in the region. Okay, if you are aware of this region called Siliguri corridor, which connects India with the Northeast. Okay, we know that a lot of insurgent groups, a lot of terrorist organizations, they have their base in Siliguri corridor. Okay, why is it like that? Okay, why is it like this becomes the base? Because they can run into any country they like. Okay, now if you can see here, it is very close to Nepal border, it is close to Bhutan border, it is close to Bangladesh, and also it is a escape route to Northeast. Okay, generally we know that the Indian government does not have the same level of control over Northeast. Okay, I hope you are aware. Okay, because a lot of insurgent groups which are there in Northeast, and because of the geography of Northeast, like it becomes easier for these groups to escape. Okay, so we can see that the Bhutan often becomes a safe haven for them to hide. Yeah, someone wants to speak, go ahead. Okay, if not, yeah. Okay, all right. So we can see that not everything is very perfect when we are talking about India Bhutan relations. Okay, though we are saying that we are Bhutan is in, you can say Bhutan security is the, you can say, prerogative of India. Okay, Indian government is protecting the Bhutan security, but often we can see that China is trying to make inroads. Okay, sometimes with directly, sometimes covertly, like the areas like the Doklam, okay, which often comes into limelight, okay, because of the China's inroads, the China's projects, okay, which it is making on the Bhutan side. Okay, now India is having a natural advantage when we are talking about Nepal and Bhutan. Okay, because if you are aware that all these territories are huge peaks of Himalayas. Okay, naturally we are having an advantage with Nepal and Bhutan. But often China is able to overcome this natural advantage by its infrastructural projects. Okay, which India is not able to. Okay, that means though we are having a natural advantage with countries like Nepal and Bhutan, what China is often doing is it is able to overcome its challenges, okay, the natural challenges by huge infrastructural projects or multi-purpose projects. Okay, it is doing it. Okay, so I think once you prepare on these lines, should be more than enough about Bhutan. I don't expect a full-fledged question, so don't spend a lot of time. Maybe one page of your notes. Okay, prepare a table. Just beside that, write with specific examples. Okay, what is security? Okay, again with specific examples, like for example, when we are talking about security, you can mention about alpha, you can mention about NDFB, you can mention about NSCN. Okay, all these having basis in Bhutan. Okay, or trade, what is the total amount of trade, what goods are traded here. Okay, what is you can say the trade surplus, what it is having with India. Okay, I think this is pretty much like and Bhutan, I hope you are aware that it is having rather than gross national product or GDP, they measure gross national happiness. Okay, I hope all of you are aware. Okay, and Bhutan is one of the few countries in the world like which are truly organic. Okay, they banned you can say the synthetic the fertilizers. They banned they only encourage the organic products. Okay, they banned tobacco and lot of other drugs. Okay, so this is one of the few countries in the world like which is uh, 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 trying to retain its original character. Okay, very few countries in the world, they are in its natural form. I think like 70% of Bhutan is forests. Okay, if I'm not wrong, just check the numbers. But we know that it is a very ecologically sensitive region. Okay, so just go through the geography environment of Bhutan. I think this would be enough. Okay, so to sum up, Bhutan says India first. Okay, Bhutan says India first, but there is other countries next as well for Bhutan. Okay, that is India is not alone in its priority list. Okay, Bhutan has its own share of developmental priorities. Okay, definitely India comes first, no doubt, for Bhutan. Okay, but there is always other countries. We know which countries we are talking about. Okay, so it is not alone. India is not alone. Definitely it is first for Bhutan, but it is not alone when we are talking about the developmental radar of Bhutan. Okay, clear? Any things before we move forward? Okay, all right. So let us go back in where exactly we are. So I think we discussed about almost all the countries in South Asia, okay, except for Myanmar, which we'll cover in ASEAN and Afghanistan. Okay, hope you got some overview, because this is the most important region when we are talking from your exam perspective. Okay, because 50% of your questions are from your India and neighborhood relations. Okay, so be very much aware about the kind of questions which are asked, and prepare the notes. Like with China, you have to prepare something like a 5-page or a 10-page notes. Okay, but the same points you need not repeat in every other country. Okay, for example, when we are talking about Bangladesh, you can just mention about China factor. Okay, and you can maybe prepare India Bangladesh 2 pages, India Pakistan 2 pages, India Nepal, India Bhutan 1 page or half page. Okay, not more than that. So within 20-30 pages you would be able to cover India and neighborhood relations. Okay, so any questions, or are we good till now before we move forward? Okay, all right, I'll take it as a no. There are no questions. Right on, next topic. Okay, hope you are comfortable with the way we are going ahead, because we need to cover a lot of countries, we need to cover a lot of ground. Okay, that's where I'm being quick on other countries, okay, where I don't see a lot of explanation is needed. But like countries like Afghanistan, again, bear with me, we would try to spend more time to understand the dynamics. Okay, and again, I would request all of you to keep your videos on, okay, and submit your assignments, okay, on time. Okay, I won't be upset if you don't submit your assignments or if you don't turn on your videos. Okay, but I would encourage all of you to do that, because this is how we you can say build that discipline. Okay, because when we are talking about your personality test, okay, suddenly you cannot you can say get all the required, you can say, elements, okay, for your personality test. What I would strongly encourage you to do is treat each and every class as your PT. Okay, your personality test, the way you behave, the way you speak in your PT. So this would be something like a training for your PT. Okay, I would encourage you to do that. Okay, and be serious on your assignments as well. Okay, so that you would have your some kind of self-discipline. Okay, so by the time we complete our class, you would be having your own notes, okay, made by you, a 50-page notes, okay, with almost all previous ed questions answered. Okay, so that you can say that IR is done. Okay, the topic of IR is done. You can keep that aside. Okay, you need not come back. Okay, again on IR, it is open for me. Okay, this is how smart student would do. Okay, because we already spent a precious time of 2 hours early in the morning. Okay, I know the pain of getting up in the morning. Okay, and staying in a IR class. Okay, so if you are already spending this much of efforts, okay, just push yourself so that you will complete your IR. Okay, so this you are going to get the outcome as well. Okay, right. So I would ensure that like maybe by next week or a week after that, in the first week of September, we'll complete our IR. Okay, but you also parallelly ensure that your IR is complete. Okay, so that you need not look back. Okay, only thing which would be needed is little bit of updation here and there. Okay, because of the ongoing things. But once we are having all the static portion with us, all the background with us, okay, updating 1 or 2 sentences should not take much time. And IR is one such topic which would be like very much helpful in building the base for a lot of other topics. Okay, when you prepare your geography, you would learn or you would understand which areas to focus more. When you learn your history, which areas to focus. When you learn your economy, when you learn your you can say internal security. Okay, a lot of topics you which we are going to just touch base here. Okay, so if you understand IR in a good sense, then you would also be cautious of what needs to be focused upon in all your other subjects. Okay, so because of the interdisciplinary nature, okay, this is going to help you in preparing the right content in all these other papers. Okay, so ensure that you are trying to do the exercise, okay, the way I tell you. Okay, because trust someone who has been in this field, okay, in this teaching industry, and dealing with different batches of students. Okay, because I know that out of maybe if there are 100 students, only 1 or 2 students are able to clear the exam. Okay, why? Because you are going through the same class, you are going through the same material, you are going through the same efforts. I know that almost all of you were going through the same process or efforts, but why only few are able to clear the exam and others are not? Okay, the reason is, it is not that they know everything, they are doing something which others are not doing. Okay, what exactly are those? Okay, they are not preparing more. Okay, they are not studying more, but they are doing their work in a smart way. Okay, that's what like which differentiates the candidates who clear the exam and who could not clear the exam. Okay, so the takeaway is submit your assignments. Okay, the takeaway is speak in the same manner as you speak in your PT. Okay, think of this one as free PT training. Okay, because in Delhi, if you go, they would charge you a huge amount of money for giving you PT training, personality test training. Okay, here I am offering for free. Okay, so think of the class as your PT, not only my class, any other class. Okay, so that you would know how to speak in a personality test, how to behave in a personality test. Okay, how to answer. Okay, otherwise most of the time students who go to PT, they are like zombies. Okay, they do not know what to do. Okay, they end up saying something which they regret, come back and regret. Okay, I seen this many times with the students. Okay, because until you speak, until you develop that habit, until you develop that habit of arguing. Okay, again, arguing when I say with valid points. Okay, arguing. Okay, until you debate. Okay, this cannot come to you instantly. Okay, right? So this would also help us to be more disciplined. Okay, getting up early in the morning. Okay, sitting in front of the class. Okay, and discussing, so that you would not be laying in bed. Okay, watch or view some Instagram video or Twitter. Okay, come to class again. Okay, it's not like that. So just be completely engaged. Okay, during the class time. Okay, all right. So I still do not see people turning on the videos after this much of you can say Gyan. Okay. Please turn on the videos. Okay. Thank you. Still, yeah. Still, I don't see. So unless you have any serious issues turning on the video, maybe a bandwidth issue or any other, please keep your videos on. Okay, so that way all of us can see each other. It would be more engaging. Okay, at least I'll get to know that you are not sleeping. Okay, all right. So also find a good corner in your room where you could be a good corner or a separate room if possible. Okay, so that we'll be having that this one, okay, without any distraction, and keep your mobile or whatever device you are using at one place so that it is not shaky. Okay, these are all the soft this one. Okay, so it cannot come suddenly. Okay, just be this one. Okay, so do I need to call by names for turning on the video? Let us see ourselves, all of us. Okay, good to see all your faces. Good to see. Okay, all right. So from tomorrow on, like we'll keep all of us, okay, be ready for a video class. Okay, and we'll turn on our videos as well. Okay, all right. Now let's go into the next and the most important issue, okay, which is going on today, the India and Afghanistan. Okay, and everyone is aware about the incidents which are unfolding in Afghanistan. Okay, hope all of us are following the news, okay, about the events which are unfolding in Afghanistan. And the most important challenge for a country like India is how to deal with the new regime which is coming in Afghanistan, that is Taliban. Okay, and what should be India's strategy in Afghanistan after the US withdrawal? Okay, we know that after a long drawn war, okay, of 20 years, okay, now Afghanistan is in the same state as it was in 2001. In fact, it might be much worse than it was in 2001. Okay, now how to deal with Afghanistan? Okay, again, we'll spend enough time, okay, to understand about the background, just like we have spent in the case of other countries. Okay, but we will take a bit longer. Okay, again, just bear with me. The reason I was saving time is to spend more on countries like Afghanistan. Okay, again, we'll go with the same formatting, our patented format of dealing with a new country: geography, then history, then the background of relations. Okay, we'll go with the same thing. First of all, we'll try to understand what is the geography of Afghan. Okay, so again, it should be like your back of your hand. Okay, whenever we are talking about the places which are there in news. Okay, whenever I say Herat, okay, whenever I say the place like Mazar-e-Sharif, okay, or the Kandahar, okay, or Kabul, or Faizabad, okay, you should be in a position to exactly point out where exactly they are. Okay, because unless you are very clear on the geography, you might not be able to appreciate the news events, okay, which are unfolding. Okay, now we'll try to understand. I hope you would do that exercise of geography. Okay, which regions are desert regions, which regions are this one. Now, first of all, the takeaway from this particular slide is Afghanistan is a landlocked country. A landlocked country. Okay, this is the first one, what we need to be very much clear. Now, what is a landlocked country? Can anyone tell me in simple terms?
Surrounded by land on all the sides, sir.
Okay, simple, surrounded by land on all the sides. It does not have any opening into a sea or a ocean. Okay, right. Now, why a landlocked country? It is very challenging for a landlocked country to have its own independent foreign policy. Okay, when we are talking about, we know that geography is a very critical issue when we are talking about the foreign policy. Why a landlocked country cannot have an independent foreign policy? Because most of the trade, we are talking in 2021. Okay, through which route most of the trade happens? land, water, or air?
Water.
Water.
Sea.
Water and land, sir.
Water. Okay. About 80 to 90% of the world trade happens through water. We are talking in 2021. Okay. Imagine something before, maybe 100 years before, 200 years before, 300 years before. Now, the only way the countries trade is with water. I hope you are aware. Okay. Because even with 21st century communication technologies, transportation technologies, the air is not a replacement for, you can say, the trade with water. Is it clear? So simply put, a landlocked country needed to depend on surrounding countries for its trade. Okay, simple. So a landlocked country can never have a independent foreign policy. Is it clear? Pakistan can have an independent foreign policy. Bangladesh can have independent foreign policy. Indonesia can have, Sri Lanka can have, Maldives can have, but Nepal cannot have, Bhutan cannot have. Why? Because they are landlocked. Understood this? Okay, we need to understand geography. Afghanistan is a landlocked country. Because being a landlocked country, it needs to depend on its neighbors, either Iran or Pakistan or countries in Central Asia or China or India. Understood the logic? Okay, why it needs to depend on the other countries? Because being a landlocked is a curse for any country. Even the most advanced countries in the world, like Switzerland. I hope you are aware, Switzerland is a landlocked country. Okay, because Switzerland is a landlocked country, it cannot have its independent foreign policy. Is it clear? This is what a thumb rule in our, you can say, foreign policy, that a country cannot have an independent foreign policy as long as it is dependent on other countries in the neighborhood. Okay. Now, the next thing what we need to be aware of is Afghanistan is surrounded by a lot of, you can say, turbulent places. Okay. We know that we were discussing about Pakistan. Okay. This region, which we call it as, if you could recollect, the Khyber province. Okay. The Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And here it is Gilgit-Baltistan. In addition to that, there is a federally administered tribal areas. And here there is Balochistan. We know that all these regions are highly turbulent within Pakistan. Okay. So what we need to understand here is Pakistan and Afghanistan also share a huge land border, which is what we call it as Durand line. Okay. If you want to make a note, D-U-R-A-N-D. D-U-R-A-N-D, Durand line. Okay, again, it is a conflicting border. Just like Radcliffe line. Okay, till where Pakistan, till where it is India. Okay, we always get into the conflict. In the same way, Pakistan and Afghanistan, they share a huge amount of land border. Okay, which is often disputed. Okay, which is often disputed. Now, we will not go into the issues of Pakistan and Afghanistan, which we'll come back to later. Now, write down the history of Afghanistan. The history of Afghanistan. The history of Afghanistan. Okay, once you understand the history, I think the ongoing events would become easier for you. Afghanistan is a place of great games. Afghanistan is a center of great games. Afghanistan is known as center of great games. Okay, great games means conflict between two superpowers. Great games. Okay, the word great games in international politics means the conflict between two superpowers. Either the Safavid versus Mughals. Okay, if you study your medieval Indian history, okay, in detail, what you realize is there is a dynasty called Safavid dynasty, which was ruling Iran. Okay, the Shah dynasty, Safavid dynasty. Okay, and on Indian side, the Indian subcontinent, including Pakistan, okay, was under the rule of Mughal Empire. the Safavids and Mughals often had a conflict over Afghanistan. Who would rule Afghanistan? Okay, or British versus Russian Empire. Okay, fast forward maybe to 19th century, 20th century. The British Empire versus the Russian Empire. Okay, again, this was in Afghanistan was an area of conflict. Or US versus Soviet Union. Or US versus Soviet Union. US versus Soviet Union. Always it was a center of great games. Okay, now what is there in Afghanistan? Why everyone is so much keen about controlling Afghanistan? You might wonder, right? Can anyone tell me what is there in Afghanistan? Why so many superpowers starting from 14th, 15th century? Okay, they wanted to control Afghanistan at any cost. What could be the logic?
Minerals.
Minerals? No,
Natural.
I would not.
Terrain.
Terrain, okay. Any other? Any other thoughts? Someone was saying?
And
Connectivity. Talked
Connect-
about this, yeah.
Good. Okay. Now, what is there in Afghanistan? Nothing is there in Afghanistan. Okay. If you ask me, in short, Afghanistan is so dry. Okay. Even the fruits are called dry fruits. Hope you are aware. Okay. Because Afghanistan is almost like a desert. Okay. Almost like a hilly terrain. There is nothing to occupy, nothing to take in Afghanistan. But what is more important is the strategic location of Afghanistan, which makes it so important. Okay, you can write down. Afghanistan is called a roundabout. Afghanistan is called a roundabout. Okay, which connects okay, again, if possible, try to draw a small diagram like this instead of writing huge story. Okay, roundabout connecting Central Asia, South Asia, West Asia and East Asia. Connecting Central Asia and South Asia. Central Asia and South Asia. West Asia and East Asia. West Asia and East Asia. Okay, I hope you are aware that this is called West Asia. Okay, this is Central Asia and this is South Asia. Okay, including India, Pakistan, this is called South Asia. So this is at the crossroads of all these different locations of Asia. Now the geostrategic location of Afghanistan brings about huge amount of, you can say, importance. Okay, the mineral wealth or opium is something in the recent times. Okay, but since times immemorial, okay, we know the importance of Afghanistan comes to through the fact that if it is at a high ground. And one more thing, this just like Tibet. Okay, why Tibet is so important for China? It is at a high ground. Okay, which if you are able to capture the high ground, you would be having a strategic advantage. Have you seen in movies? Okay, whenever there is a sniper, he would go to the tallest building in the town. And notice this. You watch a lot of Hollywood movies, you would realize it. Why? Okay, because if you go to a high ground, you would be having a complete visibility. Okay, the same thing in Afghanistan. If you are having your troops stationed here, you can attack any country very easily. Okay, or if you control this one, you cannot be attacked directly, because from your top you would be shooting arrows easily. Now notice this. This is where someone who is occupying a high ground would be at an advantage position. That is where all these superpowers, since hundreds of years, okay, they wanted to control Afghanistan. Now, ironically, Afghanistan is one such country which is very difficult to conquer. Okay, you can write down. Afghanistan is also called Afghanistan is also called graveyard of empires. Graveyard of empires, or a cursed land. Graveyard of empires, or a cursed land. Okay, now what is something interesting in the history, or a mystery in history? Okay, is whoever is trying to control Afghanistan, okay, whichever superpower is trying to control Afghanistan is the last battle for that particular superpower. Okay, that means all superpowers exhausted fighting for Afghanistan, but they ended up, you can say, destroying themselves. Okay, you can write Alexander. The fall of Alexander started from Bactria. The fall of Alexander started from Bactria. Okay, not bacteria. Okay, Bactria. Bactria is a place in Iran, okay, and Afghanistan region. The fall of Alexander started from Bactria. Okay. The empire of Genghis Khan. The empire of Genghis Khan or Britain. The Genghis Khan's empire, which created havoc, okay, in South Asia, in West Asia, could not conquer Afghanistan. Okay, the same holds good for the British Empire. Okay, the British Empire where the sun never sets. Okay, even it could not hold Afghanistan for a long time. In fact, after conquering Afghanistan, the fall of British Empire would happen. Okay, maybe you learn in your history. Okay, the same thing is with Soviet Union. I hope you are aware that Soviet Union conquered Afghanistan in 1980s. Okay, from that point of time, the Soviet Union, the disintegration of Soviet Union started. Okay, or the end of US hegemony. The end of US hegemony. US hegemony. HEG. The end of US hegemony. Okay, if you are aware about world history, okay, in 1991 there was disintegration of Soviet Union. Okay, and from 1991 to 2001, US was undoubtedly the superpower. Okay, till 1991 there was a conflict. Okay, who is going to be the superpower, either US or Russia or Soviet Union? Okay, but in 1991, after the disintegration of Soviet Union, the US became undisputed superpower. But its attack on Afghanistan is one thing which would end its hegemony. Okay, now by 2021, US is no longer anywhere a single hegemon. Okay, today even small countries like maybe the countries which were nowhere, like China, okay, they became a challenge for US. Countries like Iran, countries like North Korea, they are becoming a nightmares for US. Have noticed this? Okay, now this is where many scholars say that, okay, if any country or any superpower tries to occupy Afghanistan, that is the end of that country. Okay, now this is what the history proves. Whether it is correct or incorrect, okay, we do not know. Okay, whether it is just a coincidence or something which is really cursed, we do not know. But we say that it is often called as a graveyard of empires, because one after the other, the countries are losing in Afghanistan. Okay, is it clear? Any questions till now?
Sir, why?
Okay, why? We do not know. As I told, this is a mystery. Okay, this is a mystery in history. Okay, there are some mysteries. We do not know why it happens, but it happens. Okay.
Okay, so we cannot, like, this statement can only be derived out of the historical narratives, right? Like, there's no logic to it.
No logic to it. Maybe there could be explanations, but no explanation might be complete. Maybe some scholars say it is because of the terrain of Afghanistan, it is impossible to capture. Okay, or some scholar, but this is not the complete explanation. Okay, if you say Afghanistan is having a very hilly terrain, difficult to capture, maybe the same holds good with Maharashtra also. Okay, but people capture Maharashtra easily. Okay, is it clear? If you say that it is an arid region, a lot of arid regions are conquered, like Rajasthan are conquered, even very easy. Okay, you cannot only say this terrain does not give complete explanation. Or some say that the spirit of Afghans is something they fight back. Okay, but again, I say it is a illogical this one. Like they say Rajputs are fearless. Okay, some kind of narratives which would be created, but no other, no explanation is complete. Okay, or foolproof. Like there could be some possible explanations for why it is difficult to capture. Okay, but no explanation is giving a 100% thought on exactly this is. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Right on. Why peace and stability? Why peace and stability? In Afghanistan is important for India. Why peace and stability in Afghanistan is important for India? Okay, this could be a possible question. Why India is so much concerned? Okay, again, it is a general question. Okay, but this is where you can be able to, with a good answer, you'll be able to get, you can say perfect marks. Okay, but what generally happens is students end up writing a very vague answer. Okay, for this kind of questions. Okay, so let us have a lot of content with us. Okay, write down historic, cultural, strategic, internal security, and economic, and Pakistan's angle. Okay, maybe in tomorrow's class we'll try to understand from each of these perspectives why Afghanistan's stability is so important for India. Okay, in tomorrow's class we'll try to get as many points as possible under each of these heading. Okay, maybe for time being you can try to, if you have some additional time, try to find out, okay, from your side, okay, or try to fill up this table. Okay, as many points as you can under each of these heads. Okay, so again, don't write generic answers. Okay, so under each of these heads with respect to a particular viewpoint. Okay, so that your answers would be more and more, you can say, impactful. Okay, any questions before we wrap up today's discussion? Okay, all right, I'll take it as a no.
Can you once again say all the assignments which you given today?
Okay, so one is like we were discussing about Nepal and Bhutan. Okay, hope you would be doing the exercise of maybe preparing a 1-page content. Okay, not more than that. If you prepare like 10 pages of content, it means you do not know. That's what I expect. Okay, only 1 page for Nepal, only 1 page of Bhutan. Okay, what you should write, I think we discussed, like, from starting from geography to way forwards. Okay, I think this is pretty much. And on Pakistan side, like I hope like yesterday I given you the different wars and
Yeah, I completed. I sent it to Srinivaslu sir also.
Okay, good. So today's assignment on Pakistan is like different issues which are there, like Kashmir issue, like Sar Creek, like Indus Water Treaty. Okay, or the issue, I think these are the major issues which are there between India and Pakistan. I think 200 words on each of these. Okay, should be good enough. Okay, all right, and untold assignment is previous year questions. Okay, once we cover Pakistan, hope you would do all previous year questions on your own. Okay, this way you would be on the right track of your preparation, and a hard-working student, okay, who wants to secure his rank, okay, his or her rank, they would do the political science, international relations optional or history optional questions. Okay, so that you would be having a better visibility of the topic. Okay, I think that's pretty much for today. Thank you all. Have a nice day ahead. Bye.